Ginger Stocky with Aaron Cluley and Jay Williams. Three wonderful friends who are all in very different stages of life and know the importance of having honest, loving women around you. When we need a little extra help, we call up Miss Joyce and we ask her. Because sometimes you just need to talk about life with your girlfriend. So consider yourself one of us now and let's talk it out.
Talk it out.
Talk it out.
Oh, there's that theme song. It's back.
It's back.
Coming back. Can you make it go away?
I don't know. Talk it out.
Well, we have been talking about relationships, so we're going to continue that discussion today. And there's so much to talk about in relationships. We started last week talking about girlfriends, basically, how we all need them, how we all want them, and yet sometimes it's not that easy. You don't have people around you, or it's not going as well as you would like it to. So last week we talked about that phrase that we throw around here about more Jesus, less drama, right? And this week, we're asking the question, are you the one causing the drama? So we're going to look at ourselves and see what kind of friends we are this week. We have been looking at the resource, which is absolutely free. So if you want to get this, it's really helpful, called Enjoying Successful Relationships from Joyce. You can get it as a little booklet or digital. You can find it at joycemeyer.org/talkitout. And it's really good. So that's what we're continuing to talk about today.
Yeah, it's a really helpful little booklet too. I've been reading through it and I'm like, oh, these little nuggets are so good. So make sure you download it because it's fun. It actually does like what we're talking about today with checking out how we are as friends. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be, sometimes it's a little difficult to think of yourself as like, the reason why a friendship doesn't work out, because you always want to point the finger at someone else. But
that's so true.
It's like, it's their fault.
Why do I have to look at me? Why can't I just blame everybody else?
Let's talk about you again. I'm way more comfortable with that.
You tore up our friendship, not me. Yeah.
And we also have a guest with us today who we're excited for you to meet, because we told you a long time ago, back in season 1, that we really are 4 friends.
Yes.
Not just 3 friends.
Yeah.
And one of our friends, Megan, moved away not long ago.
Yeah.
And abandoned us.
We missed
She
her.
left us.
Exactly. So single girls, be listening, because Megan is our single friend and she's going to have a lot to say about this.
She's going to have so much wisdom to shed and story. I heard she had a good story to tell us too.
Yeah, because we're going to transition from just friendships into men and dating, and next time we'll talk about marriage. So yeah, good stuff. So do any of you have any examples of friendships that have been trying for you? Or you want me to go first? You're both looking at me like...
Because I don't want to be the first to say this group. No, I'm just joking.
I know. How do I say it?
How do
Their names rhyme with
Ginger and Pay.
You're not very good at rhyming.
That was not my strength in school.
With the rhyme. Yeah, you go first this time.
Well, I used to have this friend that I would put in air quotes.
Oh my God.
I
Every
had
time you
this
said friend, you put it...
She would say the nicest things, but always follow them up with a but. So
Oh, that's terrible.
she would say things like, "Oh, that is the cutest outfit, but those shoes."
Oh.
Or really? You look really nice today, but let's do something with your hair.
Yeah.
And so
She can't just give a
That's
compliment.
awful.
no, it just wasn't possible for her. And so for a long time, I'd laugh because it was kind of funny. And then after a while, you start to think, well, can't you just say something nice and stop? And then after a while, because this is the way I get, I'm like, bring it on. Say what you want. I can take it. And so that was one of those friendships that you don't want to call it a friendship and then sneer every time you're going to be with that person.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
So
not worth
that
your
was a little
time.
bit of a tough one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Had to adjust.
Aaron.
I have one.
Yeah.
I'll probably cry. It's going to make our producer so happy.
He likes it when we
Mostly
cry.
because it's his fault.
Oh.
So I had this realization yesterday. He came by my office and just gave me some encouragement. And so I was processing this encouragement when I got home last night and was realizing that a lot of times I think in friendships, even with the two of you, just to be super honest, I am afraid to be too vulnerable with friends and often feel like I'm the weaker link, like the weakest link. And so I was...
No way.
Well, let me tell you more.
I'm not stopping you. I want you to say what... What kind of friend is that? That is totally wrong what you're saying.
I'm just making faces like, no way.
And your eyes are getting real squinty at me.
Yeah.
I was realizing just last week I had this thought that like I am the weak friend of the three of us, and I don't even deserve to be sitting here with the two of them because they're brilliant beautiful and funny, and what do I have to offer these friends? So I have seen myself like that causes me to pull back and not want to be as honest or as I know I'm confident in myself. However, I can see that those things come up sometimes. So with friendships like the two of you, I'm not good enough to be your friend. So I'll just kind of pull back.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, first of all, thank you. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, thank you for sharing that, because I think every one of us feels that way.
Yeah.
I think we can all look at each other and say, you guys are both amazing. Joyce is obviously incredible. How can I be even connected? Even all of our friends that are listening, everybody just has so much to offer. And when I compare myself to anyone, I can say that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You are the person that keeps this friendship even kind of, you're like the heartbeat to it. You keep the party going. You always making sure that we're all staying connected, because both Ginger and I do have a tendency to kind of just like, well, I haven't heard from them. It's all good. And we just keep going with life. But you always are like, so guys, when are we doing something?
Where are you?
You are our glue. And so I love you so much. And you have so much to offer. I think you're brilliant. I think you're a creative genius. Honestly, I think you're really, really bright. And you have such an amazing gift of encouraging. When I'm around you, I always feel better. I literally can walk around you and you find something nice to say about everybody. That's genuinely who you are. And so I feel better because you're my friend. I need you in my life.
And I think everyone listening can hear that.
Yeah.
The things that you've been able to share on the podcast have been so authentic and so real and from your heart. And I think that's not only impacting Jay and me, but all of the other friends who are out there listening with us right now.
That's
and
really nice.
One of the reasons I love you so much is just because there is so much good and talent and love in you. It just exudes. It just overflows everywhere. And so, anyway.
That's nice. I think while I was thinking about this, because I'm probably not the only one who has experienced this. Our friends listening are probably it. That it is hard to be vulnerable sometimes in your relationships because you compare. When you get close to someone, there's that comparison or trying to figure out like what your footing is and where you fit into a relationship. And the enemy doesn't want us to have close friends, because when you in our relationships, for example, with each other, we encourage and strengthen each other because we're pushing each other towards Jesus and we're building each other up. Well, the devil's not going to like that.
Right.
So he's going to mess with us.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so just to get in there. So I think it's
And what
important.
you're doing here on the podcast, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is not going to like what you're sharing here because it's helping a lot of people.
Yeah.
And let's be real. We're not the easiest people sometimes.
No.
You and Ginger? You and Jay?
I know I'm not.
Well, we're kind of strong women, and you are too, Erin. And so for all of us to be in this together, I think it's just a God thing. It's just kind of
Nothing short of a miracle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've had people that ask, like, how are y'all so vulnerable on this, podcast?
Yeah.
Like, I know you mentioned somebody asked, like, do you know that this goes on forever? Like,
Someone said, I can't believe the things you say. Do you realize that that'll be out there forever? It doesn't just disappear.
No. It's like, yeah, we realize it.
That's kind of the point. If we're not going to be real, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and that's what makes this friendship so strong, and that's why you all can join along with us, is because we are truly, like, it's kind of like walking on like shaky ground, but like then it's like, okay, I'm gonna share it, here we go. Like, even if you saw like our body
and then
language,
you hear the crack and the ice falls through.
It's like, and we just go for it. But that's why it's good to have good people around, so that you can feel safe to say those things that even what you just shared, Erin, and I'm sure we'll share more in this particular podcast, because friendships, and that's the one thing that I've had to work through. Friendships are not they're not easy. They're work.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
You have to work at them, and you have to be okay having difficult conversations. You have to be loving through those conversations. You have to know when not to speak, know? So, yeah, that's why this is healthy.
Absolutely. Well, whether it's with friends or spouses or coworkers, family members, someone you're dating, whoever it is, we all have problems with people and our relationships from time to time. But how do you deal with those issues? So we're going to start now with what Joyce has to say about that.
Most of our problems in life are with people. I mean, really, if you get right down to it, I mean, just think how much happier you would be if all the people would just do what you want them to do. And just behave the way you want them to behave. Now, we do have other kinds of problems, but there's just a lot of people problems. And so the first thing that I want to tell you is one of the ways that you can just save yourself a lot of misery, a lot of hardship, a lot of heartache, because I can tell you will have opportunity to be offended. There's no you might, you will. You will have people that will hurt your feelings. You will have people that will say and do things, and you just might think, what in the world is your problem? Now, believe it or not, and I actually believe what I'm getting ready to tell you, because I've had lots of experience with lots of people. I really don't believe that there's many people, and maybe there's nobody, who gets up in the morning and thinks, I just can't wait to see how many people I can make miserable today. I mean, I just don't think that people do that. And I think that most of the pain that we get from other people are a result of their own pain. You're not all ready to swallow that, huh? Sounds to me, Joyce, like you're getting ready to ask me to feel sorry for him. Well, no. But my father hurt me so bad, and he hurt my mom so bad, and my brother, and thank God, through his grace, I was able to recover and still have a decent life. But my mom never had a decent life. My brother ended up committing suicide, and he just hurt so many people so bad. But you know what? He was a hurting man. He was a miserable, hurting man. And when you're miserable yourself inside, it's going to come out somewhere. And it's going to come out on somebody. Now, that doesn't mean that it's okay for people to do that. It doesn't mean that we just let them abuse us and don't confront them or take up for ourselves. That's really, to be honest, that's not even what forgiveness is. It's just not. But one thing that we are commanded to do in the Bible, it's not a suggestion. Come on, the things that Jesus said are not suggestions. They're commandments. And not all of them are things that will keep us out of heaven if we don't obey them, because we're saved by grace through faith. But the things that God tells us to do, every single one of them are something for our benefit. Come on now. Every single thing that God tells us to do, He's not trying to make it hard on us. He's not trying to give us impossible things to do. Which most people would tell you that one of the hardest things that they ever have to do is forgive somebody who really hurt them really bad. Amen? And we just think it's not fair, and how could God ask us to do that, and on and on and on. But He's really trying to help us by doing that. And so, since we have all these people in the world, and we've already established that they're not all going to be nice to us, and then we see that there's a command that we have to love them. Now, I wish that the Bible said, love the people that are lovable. But it doesn't. We have to somehow learn how to love people that are very difficult to love.
I love what she said. I wish the Bible said love the lovable.
I know. Isn't there a version that says that? I wish it was.
The New Standard J version, that's what it would say.
Yes.
I'm really good at loving easy people. I rock at that.
Yeah. It's the ones that aren't so easy that cause a little difficulty for me.
Well, that line that she said that of course we've heard from her many, many times, but it's so important to remember, is that usually you're hurt because of the hurt in someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where it comes out.
Yeah.
And I've had a relationship in my life that I have really seen turn around through remembering that, because it's been hard, and the things that are said or the things that are done, and they hurt you. You know, they kind of cut to your core, and then you begin to think about the motive, because I think motives are so much more important than what actually happens.
Sure.
Sometimes the motive, if it's not specifically to hurt, if I can get to that point that I realize that and let go of that hurt, and that forgive thing that Joyce is talking about is really important. But I've had a relationship like that for years and years and years, and it hasn't changed. And I prayed and prayed, and it hasn't changed. But I had to change.
Yeah.
My shifting my perspective of our relationship, and not being offended, telling myself, I'm going to be unoffendable. I'm going to be unoffendable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pass it along to someone else either, you know?
Yeah.
Those two things have really helped our relationships. It's much stronger.
It's amazing how when you can shift your mindset, 'cause
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, right.
But then it doesn't affect you so much. It won't destroy your day because
Yeah.
your perspective's
That's
different.
the key.
Yeah.
Is how am I going to respond? I can't change how they're going to act.
Yeah.
And that's what's helped me establish relationships now. I had to do this recently where a friend was just like, she's like, I don't trust you. And it was just based off of just false stuff that wasn't really me. And I knew at that moment, because my flesh wanted to say like, but that's not true. That's not that. I didn't. And then the Spirit just calmed me down and was just like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not your job to change her mind about you.
Oh, that's important.
Like, he's just like, it's not. And then finally at the end of the conversation, I just said, you know what? I just don't believe we'll be friends. I love you, but I understand that everybody's not going to be my friend, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I still love you. We can still, see each other, be cordial when we see each other, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I still love you.
And there are people who are listening, and I know I'm one of them, that have had some major betrayals of friends.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get through. I mean, it hurts, and it's hard to understand why it happened. But to get to that point where you forgive is the really important thing, because if I hold on to it, I'm hurting myself.
Yeah.
If I can forgive and do what you said, Jay, just I understand that we're not going to be friends at this point, but I'm not going to hold this as bitterness. I'm not going to hold this against you, and see what God does with it from there.
Yeah, and it's still something I'm working through, because I literally have to keep saying, like, if Jesus can say, forgive them for they know not what they do, forgive them for they know not what they do. You know, like, if he can do that, I can do that.
I have a hard time saying goodbye to relationships just because as you grow in life, you can't keep all the friends you've ever had. It's just, you grow apart, and there's a lot. It's too much. It's too many things. But like the guilt of letting go of one, like saying I couldn't make that one work any longer, makes me almost feel like I failed because I couldn't keep them all my little fishy
little
friends
chickens
together. Yeah,
Fishy
my fishy friends.
Your fishy friends. Like
not what
we're
I
all
meant.
little guppies in your bowl of life.
I give you all of my pot, my friend pot.
It is hard. It's hard to keep up with friends, and it's interesting when you move or when you have major life transitions, what relationships you stay close to and what ones you don't. It is not always what you think.
No,
It's not.
no, and it's hard to know
Yeah.
how to navigate that.
Yeah. So you take on a little guilt with that sometimes.
I
Is
do.
it because you feel like you're responsible for
Yep.
everyone's friendship?
I do, but yet I'm not really good at like long distance friendships, for example, because I don't want to talk on the phone, and it's just so much work. However, I do feel responsible, and if it doesn't work, then I failed that situation.
You know, I had a friend when I moved away from Ohio to Missouri to work with the ministry. I had a really good friend, and she said, "I'm just going to be honest with you. I am not good at staying in touch. So I've loved being your friend, but we're probably not going to be friends anymore."
But did that relieve some pressure off of you?
It did. Like, she's absolutely right. It's like, cool. That's what we'll do. But she was a good friend, but she understood the way, that she responds to people. And I respected that.
Yeah.
And I know if I needed her or she needed me, we'd be good. But I haven't talked to her in years.
And are you okay with it?
Well, yeah.
I'm sure she's great,
Yeah, because
but
I still love her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
I
really
think I'm
interesting.
fine. I think I'm fine.
Let us know.
Well, I can't even imagine some of the hard things that people go through with friendships and how much it hurts them. And then they build up walls and other people can't get in to be friends, So that big question that we were talking about earlier is looking at yourself and asking those questions instead of what other people do to you. It's those questions of, am I a good friend? Do we ever stop and look at ourselves for the source of the problem? Joyce is going to encourage us to do that in her special way.
Okay, so now I got a question to put out to you. Because God's asking me this, so I'll just share with you. Are the people that you're having a hard time loving, are they really that bad? Or are you just maybe a little too picky? For example, I don't do slow very well. I'm like, I can do more things in 1 hour than most people could do in a week. And I think fast, I make fast decisions, I move fast, so I just don't do slow people real well. So, never mind, they're, usually not a lot nicer than me. But anyway, the point is so I'm just giving you that as an example, is that, I can get impatient. And it's not, I got some self-control now. I don't just rail all over everybody, but inside I'm like, how many in the building have at least learned to keep it inside? But see, I'm wanting to get to the point where it's not there. I don't want to have to swallow it down. I just don't want it to be there. And yes, we're growing, we're changing, and we go from glory to glory, and thank God we're not what we used to be, and I'm happy for the growth, but so really I have to ask myself, well, is there something wrong with them because they're moving slower? Come on now. Or is there something wrong with me that I'm moving a little too fast? Now, I know another somebody, this is not me, but another somebody, and they don't do well with trying to teach people things. Well, you saw me do it, why didn't you get it? Well, I told you once, how many times I gotta tell you? Well, I told you what to do and you still did it wrong. And so this person is just not a very good teacher because, now here it comes, they expect everybody to learn as fast as they do. But everybody don't. And the thing we got to realize is if you have a quick brain, it's because God gave it to you. It's not because you're better than or smarter than or above. You got it as a gift from God, and He gave it to you for a purpose, but the purpose was not to look down on other people who aren't like you.
Jay, I think you brought this up before, that you've wanted your friends before to be more like you.
Yeah, that was a realization that I had before, I was upset with people because they weren't like me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that initially, but I then, after reflecting, after the friendship was over, it was kind of like, well, what didn't I like about it? It's like, well, they weren't as thoughtful as me, like I was always the one planning the parties or like planning the get-togethers. And even it took a lot for me to actually want to be around people because I'm really introverted. I really don't like a bunch of people. Like I like to like kind of be by myself. Yeah. And so I would always go outside of myself to like plan things and to do things for these people, and then they wouldn't do it back, and I'm like, and I even got out of my box for this, like and it was just years and years of that disappointment, and I'm like, well, that's why I felt like I am better off just by myself, because then I won't be disappointed that people can't be as awesome of a friend as me. Yeah. Because it's true. I'm great.
She's right.
True.
She's right.
You are awesome.
Yeah, not that awesome though.
It's really a good point. We do want people to respond the way that we would. That's how we understand life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we want them to act the way we would act, or we'd want them to act. Mm-hmm. And we're all so very different.
It's true. When you get married, you talk about like how your differences work together. You talk about the 5 love languages for your spouse and all that, but you rarely talk about that in your friendships. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same kind of thing. Yeah. Like you need different things than I need, but I can't just do what works for me for you. That's not the way friends work.
Well, and talking about everybody being different and not wanting the same thing, we told you earlier about our friend Megan. And Megan is the sweetest, just funny and soft-spoken, and her personality fits in, I think, so well with ours because she's very different. Yes. Don't you think so?
Oh, she is. She's such a good balance.
She is.
For us.
And we need that.
We do.
We definitely need Megan in our life.
So we're going to call Megan, and like we told you, she is our single friend who always has great input on everything. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to call Megan and ask her about this relationship question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
is this our friend Megan? Hi. Erin was just saying.
I'm glad to hear your voice.
We're glad to hear yours. I just can't help it. Erin was just saying when she talks to Megan, her voice gets higher and higher because she's so excited.
Hi, Megan. I love you.
Well, mine doesn't. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Megan. What's up?
What's up?
Well, Megan, we're talking about friendships, like you know, and We were just talking about how much we need you in our lives, and you're just such a wonderful balance for all of us, and we love you and we think you're wonderful. But, that aside.
Let's talk about the real
stuff. I want to know, from your perspective, when you look at relationships with girlfriends, as a single girl, how important is that as a single woman to have people around you that you can trust and depend on?
Next to God, it's probably the most important thing. And I could go on and on about just the three of you, but He's blessed me with such great friendships that, have been there for me through so much. I mean, I've moved across the country. I've changed jobs a couple times, been through hard family stuff. And without friendships, those people that, your family knows everything about you. They watched you grow up. They're with you through thick and thin. But friendships that you choose to have in your life and they choose you to have in their life, it just goes without saying how important that is, that you can lean on them and choose them day after day to be there for you.
I love that.
Me too.
We haven't talked about that there's something really wonderful in being chosen by someone else.
Yeah.
It feels
be a
so
friend.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks for choosing me, Megan.
Yeah. Oh.
Just need a group hug.
Well, that's a great answer because, like you said, God is still the number one priority, and we've talked about that a little bit. You can't put friends before God, but we need people, and He knows we need people. So that makes a big difference. Well,
and all in different ways too. I love seeing how He just orchestrates friendships, and sometimes they're just seasonal. Sometimes you only have them for certain times. But like us, it's been a long distance thing now that we're all conquering, even though it stinks. But just I love how He beautifully does that. For different seasons and in different places. He's just so great like that.
He is. We also want to transition a little bit and start talking about men. We've talked a lot about our girlfriends and the importance of those relationships. But when you look at friendships with men and beyond that, dating relationships, and like we said, next time we're going to talk about marriage. So Megan, as a single woman, what's the dating world like now? Tell us so we can live vicariously through you.
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, it's probably not that. It's not always easy, is it?
No. I would say it's really challenging. I mean, I only know it for what it is right now, but I think social media and movies and television, it can make it really hard to have an authentic relationship with a guy, and even sometimes just a friendship, because there's that stigma of, if you're married or if you're friends with a married guy, there's obviously something going on there. Not necessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes things happen, but based on things that I've seen and social media and just different friendships and everything, it can be really hard, just to be friends with a guy, and even if they are single too, you guys have different expectations of the friendship that may not always be communicated, to where you can end up not being friends because maybe somebody had feelings for someone else and they went unspoken. And so it's definitely been a little challenging, but it's good.
She's so optimistic.
I wonder, Megan, do you feel like it's true that some of that is more difficult when it comes to Christian single men and single women? There's some expectations put on you by, I say the church, quote unquote the church, but where it's just a little bit more challenging, whereas maybe that's not the case if you don't both know the Lord. Obviously, you should. It's not my point.
Yeah.
Like all Christians are moving toward marriage only?
Yes. Yeah. Maybe Christians should only be looking to get married. You can't just be friends with the opposite sex. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Just because there is that, in the church, when you're you're single and other people know, oh, there's another single guy in the church. It's like everybody tries to play matchmaker. And I know people's intentions are good. They get excited about love, and they know two single people, and they want to piece them together. And
you're the only two in the world.
But it is. That's kind of like that whole pursuit, too, of like almost guys just don't know how to pursue or just be friends with a girl first. It's, if I'm going to talk to this girl and I know she's single, I have to pursue her. And what does that look like? And what are her expectations and everything? So I think within the church, definitely, it can be more challenging than just in the world.
Yeah. How's that pressure kind of build up for you? Like, I know that you've had experiences where maybe you thought a relationship was going well and then it didn't, or other people put pressure on you. Does that release valve ever just kind of go off and you lose it?
I don't know if I've shared this with many people at all. I've been talking to a guy, kind of like on and off dating, just getting to know each other. We've gone out a couple times, and my mom and my aunt were coming to visit, and he knew that they were coming. And this was like at a point in my life where I was just super insecure, and kind of like that, I put all my eggs in one basket. I was just expecting things to work out with this guy because I'd heard good things about him, and that weekend came, and I didn't hear from him at all. And that wasn't, like, new to me, that it was kind of like that. Like, I'd hear from him, we'd go out on a date, wouldn't hear from him for a while. So the weekend came, he knew, like, my mom and my aunt were coming, and didn't hear from him at all. And we were shopping, we were in TJ Maxx, and my mom was like, I was really hoping to meet that guy. It sounds like you're starting to like him. And I just started bawling. Like, we're in the main aisle, and I just lost it. And, like, you guys know me. I do not like attention on me. And I am also not a quiet crier. So I'm, like, hands in the face, like, crying. And my aunt turns around, and she's like, what did you say? And so they both are like, what's wrong? And I said something along the lines of, like, why is it that no guy wants me? Or what is it about me that, like, no guy will commit to? And it was a turning point for me because, like, my mom got tears in her eyes, and just the look on her face, she later told me, like, it broke her heart to think that I was, like, in such a deep place that I thought there was something wrong with me. And when she told me that, I was like, well, what else would it be? Like, why, I've had all these guys, like, talk to me, I've gone out on dates, and, like, nothing has happened. And from there, it just became, like, this huge, like, deep walk with God in me finding who I am in Him, and not in having a boyfriend, a guy liking me, a guy meeting my mom and my aunt. Like, it just was a walk with Him.
So the TJ Maxx meltdown led to good stuff.
Yeah.
It's not,
It did.
We all have our meltdowns somewhere.
Often
believe
in
me.
public.
Yeah. Is it okay if we just call you sometimes when we need a little Megan input? Now and then on the podcast.
Yes, of course. I would love that.
Okay. We'll just call you off and on, and Erin's voice will get really high, and we'll all be really happy to hear
it's
from
time
you.
to talk to Megan, because Erin talks like this.
Thank you, Megan. We love
Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Love you.
Oh, well, we have one more podcast on this topic, and we're going to switch and talk about marriage at that point. So our encouragement for you this week, when you're saying, okay, what do I do with all this? All that we've talked about, what we want you to do is to go out and really love people this week.
Yeah.
Work on relationships, no matter what relationship it is. Family, friends, just love people. And even those really hard to love, those challenging people, choose to love and forgive anyway. And then use hashtag Talk It Out, girls, and let us know some of the experiences that you've had this week. I think it'll be good stuff.
It will be.
Well, don't forget, if you haven't heard all of the podcasts, if you want to catch up on some of the other things that we've done this season, you can do that. Go to joycemeyer.org/talkitout. And like I said, use that hashtag Talk It Out, girls. Check out our Instagram stories, all the fun stuff. And